Have you ever watched someone slowly disappear from everyone? They stop replying. They stop making plans. The group chat goes silent. And eventually, people start asking, what happened to them? The strange part is that sometimes nothing dramatic happened at all. No huge argument. No public betrayal. No single moment where everything fell apart. They simply became quieter, and then quieter, until almost nobody heard from them anymore. From the outside, this can look rude, antisocial, or even arrogant. But psychologically, suddenly withdrawing from everyone can mean something very different. Sometimes people don't disappear because they stop caring about others. They disappear because interacting with others started costing them more energy than they had left. And there are several reasons this can happen. They become socially exhausted. Imagine your phone at 3% battery. Normally, answering one message would be easy. But when your battery is almost empty, even something small feels expensive. People can work the same way. Every conversation requires attention. You listen. You respond. You read tone. You think about what to say. You react to somebody else's emotions. When you're doing well, this happens almost effortlessly. But when someone is mentally exhausted, even a simple message can start feeling like work. A friend sends, "Hey, how are you?" They see it. They plan to answer later. Later becomes tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes 3 days. Now they feel guilty because they waited too long. So replying becomes even harder. Eventually, avoiding the conversation feels easier than explaining the delay. And one unread message quietly becomes 10. They get tired of performing. Most people don't behave exactly the same around everyone. Around coworkers, you may act professional. Around family, you may behave differently. Around friends, another version appears. Some adjustment is normal, but certain people spend years feeling like they have to constantly perform. Smile when they're tired. Laugh when something isn't funny. Act interested when they're mentally somewhere else. Say, "I'm fine" when they aren't. After enough time, social interaction can start feeling less like connection and more like acting. Then solitude becomes the only place where they don't have to manage how they appear. Nobody needs an explanation. Nobody needs a reaction. Nobody is watching. They can simply exist. So when someone suddenly becomes quiet, they may not be rejecting people. They may be exhausted from constantly presenting a version of themselves for other people. They stop feeling understood. There is a huge difference between being heard and feeling understood. Someone can listen to every word you say and still completely miss what you mean. Maybe you explain that you're overwhelmed. They tell you to just relax. You explain that something hurt you. They tell you you're overreacting. You explain why you need space. They immediately make your need for space about them. After enough experiences like this, people can learn a powerful lesson. Explaining yourself doesn't always create understanding. Sometimes it creates another argument. So they stop explaining. At first, they share less. Then they stop talking about certain problems. Then they stop talking about themselves. Eventually, silence feels safer than being misunderstood again. The withdrawal may look sudden to everyone else, but internally, it may have been happening for months. They became tired of one-sided relationships. Some people are always available. Someone has a problem? They listen. Someone needs advice? They answer. Someone is lonely? They're there. But then one day, they notice something uncomfortable. When they need someone, the room gets very quiet. Messages take longer. People suddenly become busy. Conversations somehow return to somebody else's problems. At first, they excuse it. Maybe everyone's busy. Maybe I'm expecting too much. Maybe it's just bad timing. But repeated imbalance changes relationships. A person can slowly begin wondering, do they actually care about me? Or do they care about what I provide? Once that question enters the relationship, Every interaction starts feeling different. Sometimes people don't dramatically confront everyone. They simply stop initiating, and then they discover something painful when they stop doing all the work. Some relationships completely disappear. Silence can become self-protection. If touching a hot surface burns you repeatedly, eventually you stop touching it. Emotionally, people can learn similar patterns. Maybe opening up led to judgment. Trust led to betrayal. Being vulnerable led to embarrassment. Asking for help led to disappointment. One painful experience usually doesn't make someone withdraw from everyone, but repeated experiences can teach the brain. Connection is risky, so the person becomes quieter, more private, more careful. They tell fewer people what they're thinking. They expect less. And because expecting less can reduce disappointment, isolation begins to feel strangely safe. But there is a catch. Protection can become a prison. The same wall that keeps painful relationships outside can also keep supportive relationships outside. And after enough time, someone may forget that the wall was supposed to be temporary. They may be trying to regain control. Social life contains endless demands. Reply to this. Attend that. Call them back. Explain yourself. Make plans. Cancel plans politely. Respond to another notification. For someone already overwhelmed, these tiny obligations can begin feeling like hundreds of hands pulling at their attention. Then they discover something powerful about disappearing. Everything becomes quiet. Nobody can demand an immediate reaction if you aren't available. Nobody can pull you into an argument if you don't participate. Nobody can interrupt your thoughts if your phone is turned off. Withdrawal suddenly gives them something they felt they had lost: control. For a while, that can feel incredibly relieving. The danger is when temporary recovery becomes permanent avoidance. Sometimes they are changing. Not every period of withdrawal comes from pain. Sometimes someone's life is changing internally before anyone can see it externally. Their old conversations no longer interest them. Their priorities change. Their habits change. They begin questioning relationships they once accepted automatically. And suddenly, certain social environments feel strangely unfamiliar. The people haven't necessarily become worse. The person withdrawing may simply no longer feel like the same version of themselves. This creates an awkward stage. They no longer fully belong to their old life, but haven't built a new one yet. So they spend more time alone, thinking, reevaluating, deciding what they actually want. From the outside, it looks like disappearance. Inside, it may feel like reconstruction, but there is an important difference. Wanting temporary solitude is not automatically unhealthy. Some people genuinely need quiet to recover. Some need space after stress. Some simply enjoy being alone more than others. But there is a difference between "I want some time alone" and "I desperately want connection, but I can't make myself reach out anymore." One feels chosen. The other can feel like being trapped. If someone withdraws because every interaction causes intense fear, sadness, hopelessness, or emotional exhaustion, there may be more happening than simple introversion, and that deserves compassion rather than assumptions. Because quiet people are often surrounded by stories other people invented about them. They think they're better than us. They don't care anymore. They've changed. Sometimes those stories are right, but sometimes the truth is much simpler. The person became tired, tired of explaining, tired of performing, tired of always reaching first, tired of being misunderstood, or simply tired enough that silence became easier than another conversation. The healthiest answer isn't to disappear forever, but it also isn't to force yourself to be constantly available. It's learning the difference between solitude that restores you and isolation that slowly disconnects you from the life you actually want. Because sometimes silence is peace, sometimes silence is protection, and sometimes silence is a signal that you've been carrying too much for too long. The important question isn't, why don't I want to talk to anyone? It's, when I finally become quiet, do I feel relieved? Or do I feel alone?